Games Workshop's Basement. Hosted by John Kirk.
I command you, as King of the Britons, to stand aside. Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've had worse.
Victory is mine. We thank thee, Lord, that in thy mercy...
Dwarves are cool. So, like, how do they play? I kind of switched it up. I wanted to talk about this first before we start talking about units. Dwarves have a bunch of really good, like, their leadership is good.
Yep.
Their armor is good. Their toughness is good.
Yeah.
Like, they're like little ball bearings. That's how I've always liked in dwarves, right? But their weakness is a really big weakness. It's movement.
They slow.
Like, they even have magic a little bit now with like the anvil casts spells, just like more or less like a level 3 wizard, you know. So pretty good ability that they have there to kind of like do some work even in those phases, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dwarves win by controlling when combats happen. And what units they don't, I mean, they don't control when the combats happen. You get to pick that. but they get to decide which of your units actually either make it there because they've shot you to death. Or which units come in intact, because like it's a lot different to fight out 3 rounds of grindy combat with dwarves when you have 20 guys versus like 10 guys. So like they can just kind of grind you down that way. And that's kind of how they pick up all their points in the end, because the shooting probably isn't going to kill a lot of stuff unless it's like something big, like a monster or something like that.
I think it's fair to say this is a gunline army, or it intends to be played by a gunline army, right? So
yeah, dwarves, when they deploy, so the way to play dwarves, and this is like you'll win a ton of games this way, I'm telling you, is you pick one of the corners.
Yeah.
And so you pick a corner, that's your corner. You don't leave your corner. You don't have to go to other corners. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you can stay in your corner and kind of dictate when the enemy can hit you if you use some harrying elements, like rangers are a great example because they're a little skirmishing unit or something like that. And then you hide in your corner and put 2 or 3 blocks out in front of your army, and you shoot whatever comes at you and try not to give up any points.
Yep.
And then by the time they get to you, they should be so hurt that they can't hurt your units, and you can beat them up even with your slow infantry.
Yeah, they have gyrocopters. I know the internet is a Twitter with gyrocopters these days. Don't be that person is probably my first thing to say, and also it looks kind of fun. So I'm sure it's
the list that I made does have some gyrocopters in it. So
okay, good.
but I'm I'm a big proponent of like a rule of 3, rule of 6 type scenario where you have like up to 6 duplicates for core per each unit. That way you don't end up with like 20 individual gyrocopters and stuff like that. If people want to bring 50 thunderers, that's whatever. That's good, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, let's dig
talk about
into
their
it.
units.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, look at that. First one on the list there.
Man.
Little baby gyrocopters. Gyrocopters are awesome. They're fast on an army that's traditionally not fast at all. They have decent shooting. They're skirmishers. They have a bunch of rules that help them to do what they need to do, which is march block the enemy, kind of destroy some small elements, or get in the way potentially if they need to. They're also a pretty decent little countercharge unit, because they have impact hits, like a chariot.
Nice.
So like they actually can like clear out like little warhound units and stuff like that if they charge those. So like they can even fight other chaff pretty well, which is pretty amazing. They can be war machine hunters in that way too, because they can go run over the crew. So just a really versatile unit, a really powerful unit, and probably too powerful if you can take like 20 of them, you know.
Yeah, they were typically the the guys that went out there and move blocked and just caused trouble and delayed things so your shooting could hit home. And you know what? They're probably going to be doing that in this edition as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, either they're doing that, so you can have them individually, or they can be taken in units of up to 6.
Oof.
So,
Jesus.
like, that's actually a decent amount of firepower in one unit.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Mhm.
I elected for a little bit more reasonable units for my list, but it was definitely a starting point for me for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, hammers are an amazing melee unit. One of the best ones in the game.
Yep.
They have multi attacks when they get charged. They get +1 attack and +1 initiative, so they get 2 attacks each. And their hammers aren't always strikes last. They're
That's
like
huge.
yeah. So they're strength +2, and they're initiative 3 base, so they go to initiative 4 in that round. And they have weapon skill 5, strength 6. These are -2, and the hammers have armor bane 2.
Yeah.
So like if you roll a 6 to wound on them, they're AP -4.
Hot
That's
dog.
no 3+ armor save for
Yeah.
knights. That's the big sad.
Yeah,
So
they have the same rule that they used to have. I believe that they can take challenges,
Yeah.
all of them. So
I didn't even buy a champion for my unit, Dickie.
what's the point?
Because well, I don't need one. I don't think I need one that much.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. So they're awesome.
Yeah.
Their defense they don't have full plate, so they only have heavy armor. So
Mm.
it is probably a good idea to buy them shields, just so they can get a little bit more of a save from shooting. So you're not losing them to like a rank or 2 based on arbitrary missile fire.
Yeah.
So. And then the last choice, I just said war machines because dwarf war machines are notoriously awesome. They can be buffed by their engineers,
Yeah.
which get to pick a war machine to either reroll 1s to hit or reroll one of the artillery dice.
Yep.
Also, the war machines that can take runes can take the rune of forging, which lets you once per game reroll an artillery dice too. So
It's really
for
good.
like 15 points, you can make your cannon, and you're probably only going to roll 1 misfire per game.
Yeah.
Statistically, if you roll more than that, whatever. But it's definitely worth 15 points to try and not do that.
Yeah. I've actually had a lot of questions in comments and asking us how do cannons work this edition.
Oh, yeah, sure. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Cannons work pretty simply. Basically, you just nominate a point on the table within line of sight of the cannon.
Yep.
And so you draw a straight line between that point and the cannon, and you roll an artillery dice and move the dot, basically the line that you put that far forward, and then you bounce it by rolling the artillery dice again, and that's the danger zone, the bounce.
Yeah.
So if you roll a misfire on the part where you're getting the extra range to where you're placing the initial cannonball, that's when it actually might misfire. If you misfire on the bounce, then it just sticks in the dirt on that point, which is fine if you're shooting at a monster or something and you can land it on their base.
Yep.
But yeah.
100%. So there you go. There's your Cannon 101 with Danny there.
It's pretty good. They always say 10 from the back of the unit that you want to hit if you want to do the most damage, like 10 inches from the back.
What a good name for a podcast. I tell you.
I think it depends.
Yeah.
Anyway. Dwarves don't have magic items like traditional armies do.
They don't.
They're a non-traditional magic item army, and that means that they have custom runes, just like they used to. So you can kind of build your magic items from scratch, doing whatever
Choose
you
your
want.
own adventure magic items.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Choose your own adventure magic items, and you can come up with some pretty wicked combos. And they have master runes, which are kind of like 1 per item. You can have 1 master rune.
Yep.
One of those is like toughness 10.
Toughness 10.
Toughness 10.
I read that and I had to like shake my head a second and go, a toughness 10 dwarf lord.
You can make him 6 wounds too.
Oh man.
Yeah. He can be a little beast.
He can be.
So really customizable. And I normally talk about magic, but I'm going to talk about the Anvil of Doom. The Anvil of Doom has 3 different powers that it gets to use, and you get to use all of them every turn. So they're all power level 3, which just means you get to add 3 to their casting results.
Yeah, they're bound spells. Yeah.
Yeah, these are bound spells basically, so it can't miscast,
Huge.
or anything like that, which is great. And also, the Anvil of Doom counts as a level 3 wizard for dispelling, which is the only way to get that. All dwarves across the whole army have magic resistance 1 at least. So, like, automatically your enemy is -1 to be casting stuff on them, which is great. Anyway, the one that I like the most is probably the rune of haste and urgency, which is a casting value of 10. So that means you have to roll a 7 or higher. And you pick a friendly unit within 24 inches, and as long as they're not fleeing, they can move again.
Yeah. Really taking that minus that they have or negative in the army and making it actually usable on some, like sending hammers way up.
Yeah, moving hammers 12 inches in one turn.
Yeah.
Is a lot of is really far for that unit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a great choice as well. I highly would recommend taking the Anvil if you have the points. 235 points on that bad boy. So let's talk about the list that I made.
I love it.
All right. So we've got a Dwarf Lord full plate, Rune of Fortitude. Rune of Fortitude gives him +1 toughness. That makes him toughness 6. And then he has a great weapon with the Rune of Parrying, which makes him -1 to hit in close combat. So I didn't give him a ward save, but I feel like between being toughness 6 and -1 to hit, it's going to be really annoying to kill him. And I kept him pretty cheap. So Runesmith has 2 runes of spell breaking, which just lets me, instead of just trying to dispel a spell, I can just say, no, it's not happening this turn.
Yeah, this is the only way to just outright stop magic in the game without rolling a dice, correct?
No, the high elves have a magic item that does it too.
Of course they do.
But it's 40 points compared to 25.
Okay.
So, anyway, he's got full plate and a shield. He gives his unit armor bane 2 and flaming attacks, which is important.
Very important.
He's going to join these long beards here. They've got shields, full command, and the rune of battle, which gives them +1 combat resolution. So Longbeards are already they have Grommill weapons, which means that they get AP1 on their close combat attacks.
Yep.
And they get to reroll 1s on their armor saves. So they're a 4-up armor save, rerolling 1s, and they have armor bane 2. So if they roll 6s to wound, they're -3 to armor, which is kind of cool. I don't know, they're like secretly maybe a little hitty, but more defensive. And I've got 3x5 Quarrelers, which are just some crossbowmen to try. They're kind of chaff and they can kind of pick off stuff. 10 Rangers with shields, and these guys have crossbows already, so they've got crossbows and shields. And there's scouts and skirmishers, so they kind of fulfill a midfield role if you need somebody out there, or they're just a shooting unit. They're also ballistic skill 4, which is really nice.
That's really nice.
2x3 gyrocopters with brimstone guns. So the brimstone guns are 18 inches, multiple shots, D3 +1, and they're strength 5 -2. So a really great unit for picking up knights. Also, like they're good against monstrous infantry, stuff like that. Or cavalry. So a really nice little armor busting unit that also is going to be annoying in a War Machine Hunter and like can affect other chaff. They do a ton of different stuff. 20 hammers with the banner. I just gave them a banner. I didn't care about the musician either. And they have shields and their hammers and heavy armor, and they have the Rune of Confusion. So this is whenever units charge them, it counts as a disordered charge. So you don't get your initiative bonus.
Yeah.
So they're always initiative 4 when you charge them, and I hope your initiative is better than 4 naturally, because that's all you're getting.
So I'm gonna get thumping. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Then one cannon with the Rune of Forging, and then that lets me reroll that artillery dice, and 2 organ guns, which are pretty cool now. They roll 2 artillery dice. If you roll 1 misfire, it just gives you an extra -1 to hit on the other shots that you get. But otherwise, it just shoots that many shots. So
nice.
I didn't put a BSB in here. I think that might be a mistake, but I don't know that I need him in this list. And he's kind of a lot of points. He's probably about 100 points to put that in there. So I'd have to drop a War Machine or something else. So I think it was hard for me to kind of fit him in here. But this list kind of plays all over the table, but also is going to kind of castle up in a corner. And shoot you when you get close to it.
Yeah, and like the standard 2 big fighting blocks of dwarves, right? So
Yep.
that's it looks very 8th edition, to be honest. The list from what so yeah.
Yeah, well, that might be my bias. So we'll have to see. I've got the cannon for dealing with big stuff.
Yeah.
And the organ guns and the other guns that I have can shoot knights, which are really kind of the units I'm worried about. Otherwise, I'm going to have a lot of turns to shoot you with crossbows for other infantry and organ guns too, as you cross the table.
Yeah, that's what are organ guns AP2 or AP1?
I think they're AP1 with armor bane 2.
Okay. Knights don't like getting shot by AP1 or AP2 though these days.
No.
So
no, knights just don't like getting shot, right? I mean,
I really like the introduction of the scout units, the rangers there, just to kind of add some downfield pressure.
Yeah, also this can protect me if my opponent's army has a lot of vanguard units.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can just put this unit in the way of them, and then they can't move past them. So it helps me to kind of keep maybe them from getting to me too fast, where I can't deal with them.
Mm-hmm. What do you? Here's a silly question. With I guess it's a lower charge ranges these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Old World, do you think that helps the dwarves a bit more, or gives them on a little more equal footing?
I mean, it just makes them like the slowest of something that's already very slow to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, like maybe if you're kind of in that infantry range, like where charges can happen, but I never really found that dwarves had a problem when they were fighting other infantry. It's more that they're worried about getting charged by stuff that like substantively like has a higher movement value than them. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like stuff with swift stride, or like even dragon ogres are movement 7 and they still charge normal, but they're going to charge like twice as far as dwarves do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely dwarves are getting hit. So I think when you're building a list, you got to prepare for getting punched in the face first, and how you can kind of win that exchange afterwards.
Yeah,
and definitely the Rune of Confusion is a big deal there as well.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like what this like. So the Longbeards are meant to be a holding unit, and the Hammerers are a hammer unit. So
literally.
I mean, literally, like they're the unit that'll mess people up in combat. The Longbeards are like kind of offensive, but mostly they're defensive because weapon skill 5 alongside of the 4+ armor save rerolling 1s is actually, I don't know if they have grandma armor. They may not reroll 1s. But still, like they're as tough basically as Chaos Warriors in combat. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm surprised no Iron Breakers in there, but maybe the Longbeards got some special sauce.
So the reason I don't have Iron Breakers is because I would probably take Iron Breakers over Longbeards, but those gyrocopter units are a lot of points.
Yeah.
I think that they're about 200 points apiece. So that's like 400 points. So that's easy. That would easily be like a unit of Iron Breakers and that. So if you took less gyrocopters, you could easily fit probably another combat brick in here. I just wanted to try that because I think that they help you kind of rule the table and kill war machine hunters and stuff like that really, really well.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, I can't wait to see it on the table.
I'll have to get my wife to paint hers up.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's time to step into the grim darkness with nerds gather talking Warhammer madness. Grim After Dark, the podcast with the hosts John, Danny, and Val, but they're not the most. Claiming to be experts, but it's all a facade. Talking about battles and dice rolls, they're all odd. Trying to sound cool with their Warhammer talk, but I'm here to expose. It's all just squawk. Nerds, everywhere I see talking Warhammer this, like it's a decree. But let me tell you, homie, it is all just a game. In the real world, homie, we are not the same. So put down the dice, step out of the dark. It's time to live life, nerd, make your own mark. Grim After Dark, the nerds playground. Talking Warhammer this, acting all profound. But when I listen, it's all just a bunch of noise. I love roasting nerds and their stupid ass toys. Stupid ass toys, I wanna grab them, put my hands around the neck, squeeze, Warhammer squeeze, until they can't breathe again. Tell a friend, I'm out here roasting nerds again.